If you're just joining the series, here's a quick recap. In the previous video, we built a clean architecture foundation using ASP.NET Core 10 Web API. We structured the solution into clear layers: API, domain, application, and infrastructure, and set up proper project references and dependency injection. This gives us a clean, scalable base that we'll keep building on throughout the series. You can find the full source code on GitHub, and you can start from this video without any problem. All database-related work will live inside the infrastructure project. This includes the database configuration, DbContext, and repository implementations. The domain project, on the other hand, is responsible only for defining the core business entities. So inside the domain project, let's create a new folder called Entities. Inside this folder, we add a new class called Customer Entity. This class represents a core business concept and will later be mapped to the database by the infrastructure layer without introducing any database-specific dependencies into the domain. Now, let's move to the infrastructure project and add the required NuGet packages. We'll start by installing Entity Framework Core, which will be responsible for data access. Next, we add Entity Framework Core Tools. This package will help us manage database migrations. Finally, since we're using SQL Server, we install Entity Framework Core for SQL Server. All database-related dependencies stay inside the infrastructure project, keeping the domain and application layers clean and framework independent. Now, let's move to the API project and install one more NuGet package. We'll add Entity Framework Core Design. This package is required at design time and allows Entity Framework to discover our DbContext when we run migrations. Now, inside the infrastructure project, let's add a new folder called Data. This folder will contain all database-related classes. Inside it, we create a new class called DbContext. This class will be responsible for managing the database connection and mapping our domain entities to the database using Entity Framework Core. It inherits from DbContext and receives DbContext options through its constructor, which allows Entity Framework Core to configure it at runtime. We then expose a DSBET, which represents a table in the database and is mapped to our domain entity. Now, inside the infrastructure project, we register our app DbContext. In the Add Infrastructure Dependency Injection method, we use AddDbContext to configure Entity Framework Core. Here, we specify SQL Server as the database provider and pass the connection string. This keeps all database configurations centralized inside the infrastructure layer and completely out of the API, application, and domain projects. Now, inside the Customer Entity class, let's add some basic properties. We define an ID of type guide, along with properties like name, email, and phone. These properties represent the core data of our customer and stay completely independent from any database or framework-specific concerns. Now, open the Package Manager console. Make sure the infrastructure project is selected as the default project. Then, add a new migration called dbinit. This will generate the initial database schema based on our domain entities and DbContext. As you can see, a new migrations folder has been created. This folder contains all the Entity Framework Core migration files and represents the evolution of our database schema over time. Now, let's apply the migration by running update-database. This command creates the database and tables based on our current model. Once it completes, our database is fully initialized and ready to use. Now, let's verify the database inside SQL Server. We open SQL Server Management Studio and connect to our local instance. Here, we can see the database created by Entity Framework Core, along with the tables generated from our entities. This confirms that our migrations were applied successfully and that the database is ready to be used. Now, inside the infrastructure project, let's create a new folder called repositories. Inside this folder, we add a new class called Customer Repository. This class will contain the concrete implementation for accessing customer data and will interact directly with the app DbContext. Here we implement our repository inside the infrastructure layer. The repository receives the app DbContext through constructor injection, which allows it to access the database. We then expose an asynchronous method that retrieves data using Entity Framework Core. All database access logic stays inside this repository, keeping the rest of the application clean and decoupled from data access concerns. Now, let's introduce an abstraction for our repository. Inside the domain project, we create a new folder called Interfaces. Inside this folder, we add a new public interface called IC Customer Repository. This interface defines the contract for accessing customer data without exposing any database or infrastructure details. The infrastructure layer will later implement this interface, which keeps our architecture clean and respects the dependency inversion principle. Now, let's add another method. We introduce a method called getCustomerByItAsync. This method allows us to retrieve a single customer by its identifier in an asynchronous and clean way. By defining it in the interface, we keep the contract clear and independent from any implementation details. We create an asynchronous method called AddCustomerAsync that receives a customer entity. The entity is added to the customer's DSBET, and we persist the changes using SaveChanges async. Finally, we return the created customer. We start by retrieving the customer from the database using its identifier. If the customer exists, we update its properties with the new values and persist the changes using SaveChanges async. Finally, we return the updated customer. This approach keeps update operations encapsulated inside the repository and maintains a clean separation between business logic and data access. Let's add a new method to delete the customer. We first try to retrieve the customer from the database using its identifier. If the customer exists, we remove it from the DbContext and persist the change. The method returns a Boolean to indicate whether the delete operation was successful. This keeps delete logic fully encapsulated inside the infrastructure layer and consistent with our repository pattern. If you're enjoying this series and finding it useful, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It really helps support the content, and it ensures you won't miss the next videos where we'll keep building on this project. Now, Inside the application project, let's install a new NuGet package called MediatR. MediatR helps us implement the mediator pattern, which allows different parts of the application to communicate without directly depending on each other. In clean architecture, we use Mediat mainly to handle commands and queries. Commands represent actions that change the state of the system, like creating, updating, or deleting a customer. Queries represent read-only operations, such as retrieving a list of customers or a single customer by ID. Each command or query is handled by a dedicated handler, which keeps our code clean, focused, and easy to test. Now, inside the application project, let's organize our code for MediatR. We start by creating a new folder called Commands. This folder will contain all operations that modify the system state. Next, we add another folder called Queries. This one will contain all read-only operations. This clear separation makes our application logic easier to understand, maintain, and scale. Now, inside the Commands folder, let's create our first command. We add a new class called AddCustomerCommand. This command represents an action that modifies the system state, in this case, creating a new customer.